Hey guys, welcome to Live Shot of Steelers, our pregame edition in advance of the playoff game against the Texans. That's an 8:15 p.m. Monday night kickoff at Acrisure Stadium. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. We're from DK Pittsburgh Sports, and we welcome your feedback, your input, your questions, whatever it is that you have today. There's no particular format for this program other than interacting with you, making sure that you know that your voice counts and is heard by all of us. My thoughts in the immediate advance of this game, Chris, first and foremost is they've got to find a way to get through that defense. They've just got to find a way to make something happen, to hold on to the football. I really don't care how it happens, and I'm sure they don't either. But there has to be something to that effect.
Yeah, because again, when you go to look for any kind of weakness, if you're looking for the little exhaust port in that'll blow up the Death Star,
hole.
Yeah, if you're looking for the little exhaust port that's going to help the rebel cause, you've really got to do some digging. Because they have, Will Anderson Jr. and Daniel Hunter. Anderson was named first-team All-Pro. Hunter was named second-team All-Pro. They stopped the run up the middle. Their linebackers are really good. Derek Stingley Jr. is a first-team All-Pro cornerback. Kamari Lassiter had even more passes defensed than Stingley did. So, when you look and then you look at four different players on their defense, you pointed this out earlier in the week. Four different players had 4 interceptions. You begin to look, you're like, where are they weak? And this is why Arthur Smith gets paid the big bucks. This is why Mike Tomlin gets paid the big bucks. You have to find something to try to do enough against that defense. And it's going to be an uphill battle. It just is.
You know, in looking ahead to what I expect will be the closeness of this game, I think about, a lot of the dramatic endings and so forth that we saw over the weekend. And I think about how it can all come down to just one big play. And I think about the Steelers offense. I don't necessarily think about big plays. I don't see a whole lot of splash from this group. I don't think anybody has, and nor is anybody expecting it to emerge. But if it is going to come, it's going to be in the form of DK Metcalf. If you're gonna beat the Texans defense, and you're going to beat it with a boom, it's going to be a boom that comes from number 4, and of course originating with number 8. I don't know if that means you just run Metcalf in a straight line, Mike Williams style, go get him. Or if it means, diversifying, having him run across the middle of the field, kind of keeping the Houston secondary guessing a little bit as to where he'll be. You sound like you already have something to say to that.
Well, yeah, because, if you are looking for a chink in the armor, Houston has been giving up explosive plays as of late. 4 over the past 4 through the air of 40-plus yards over the past 3 weeks, 2 of them against Riley Leonard and the Colts. Now, Kamari Lassiter did not play in that game, and the guy who was filling in for him was the guy who got beat both times. Now, Lassiter's back. He was cleared to play. He was on the injury report, but he was cleared to play. That's going to be a big return for the Houston defense, but it doesn't mean that D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke, their defensive coordinator, are not paying extra attention, because when D'Amico Ryans addressed the media on last Monday, one of the first things he said about the defense was, "Yeah, we did a good job at stopping the other team from scoring points, but we were giving up way too many explosive plays at the end." And then when the defensive coordinator spoke later in the week and said this, he pretty much reemphasized the same thing. He's like, "We have to stop those explosive plays from happening." So you'd be stupid to not smell blood in the water and try to attack it, right?
I would think so. I would also think that there are other vulnerabilities, as JC points out here. Houston's vulnerable with the missed tackles. This should be a Jonnu Yak King game. Yeah, except that we haven't seen the Jonnu yak version of Jonnu this year. For anybody who doesn't know what the heck we're talking about here, that's yards after the catch. And Jonnu Smith, he was spectacular in this regard for Miami last year. He has not been that in Pittsburgh, and not since day one.
It's not been there all season.
No, and to me, here again, if you're gonna go at whatever your perceived weaknesses are in the Houston defense, you're gonna do it a little bit past the line of scrimmage.
It's going to be significantly past the line of scrimmage.
Right. So I'm not necessarily looking at Jonnu as much as I am at Pat Freiermuth in that regard, mostly because I don't put Pat into any situations where I doubt that Pat can make the play. I just don't. I think Pat is a guy who can win his battles. Pat is a guy who can get open, and Pat is a guy who's fearless. And that's what I need. That's what I need. I need somebody who can attack deep and over the middle and make sure that the Texans can't stack the line of scrimmage. That, I don't know if that comes first chronologically for me, Chris, but it is priority wise.
Well, and the thing is, the way I think about it, and I've talked about this a number of times, when I do Chalk Talks, it's a lot easier to be, for me, to be a coroner than to be the doctor to prevent the death from happening. I can help diagnose what happened, why the person died. But looking at this game, looking at what's been ailing the Texans defense as of late, you have to continue to test them that way. If you don't, then it's not smart. You can't just assume that now is the week that they're going to get it fixed up because they're getting Kamari Lassiter back. No, make them prove it. Make them prove that they've gotten everything figured out, because it's not just been necessarily the players who've been out there. It's just been busted coverages. So do different things to try to bust those coverages. And if it works, then great. Then you get explosive plays down the field. But if they do show that they have it locked up, guess what? They still only get to put 11 guys on the field. So maybe that helps open things. If they are really tied up, and have everything locked down far down the field, but with 4 guys, then there's only 7 down close, possibly. So take advantage of that, because if Jaylen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell ever get any kind of space to have yards after the catch, they just showed what you can do to a defense doing that. They only racked up like over 200 yards against the Ravens last week.
Yeah, and I think that's a point to make too when you're talking about softening those guys up through the pass. If they line up to stop Jalen and Kenny at the line of scrimmage, and Jalen and Kenny run right around them and catch a football, that's quite the antidote to that approach. Unfortunately, we have not seen Arthur Smith do a lot of that. We haven't seen a lot of quick slants. We've seen sideways. He's more than happy to do that sideways where he thinks he has blockers lined up. And unfortunately, some of the people that he has out there to do the blocking aren't interested.
Or just are not good at it. Jonnu being one.
And aren't interested.
Right.
Okay. And then, you also have the other problem, which is if you put Ben Skoranek out there, you're basically putting up a neon sign on Mount Washington that says, "Here comes the run." I'm okay with that. To borrow from Mike Tomlin earlier in the week when he was talking about the Houston defense, he was saying they don't really apologize for who they are. They know they're so good at it. They just come at you. They're not worried about hiding it. I have no problem with the Steelers doing that. I really don't. We were asked here earlier, I'm going to see if I can find it to get back to it, a question about Spencer Anderson.
I could definitely see this being a game where you bring in where Spence plays a lot.
Well, the question was the question was, and I apologize for who asked, as I can't find it on the screen right now. Is he going to play every snap? Spence has never played that much.
No,
not in this role, not in the 6-man role.
No,
but this is different, man. This is playoffs. This is different, and to me, there's a lot to gain, Chris, from running a whole lot of Spence out there.
Well, there's a lot to gain from just a personnel standpoint because, well, first off, if you have the extra offensive lineman and you want to, if you want to pass, if you want to throw the football, now you've got a little bit extra beef to help slow down Anderson and or Hunter. Like that has to be priority when you're talking about throwing the football. Protect Aaron Rodgers, and they've got those two guys combined for 27 sacks this year. They're gonna get after Aaron if you don't, make that a priority. But then Houston is one of the league leaders in terms of operating out of their nickel defense. So if you put the jumbo package out there, either Houston's just going to be stubborn and they're just going to keep playing out a nickel, and now you just have a sheer size advantage out there and you can bully them to death, or you are forcing them to play more in their base defense, which they don't like to do nearly as often. So instead of being the one who conforms to what they do, which they're almost exclusively out of nickel, so then you're going to go, well, we'll just go a whole lot of 11 personnel. Screw that. Put your bullies out there, put your big guys out there, and force them to do something different.
Wind Dog says that the Texans aren't good playing in the cold. You know how I feel about weather stats. I believe the statistic specifically, Chris, is that the Texans are 0-5. And I don't remember what it was road playoff games. I don't know if there's weather involved in that or whatever. The Texans just haven't been in the playoffs. I mean, as a franchise, the Houston franchise has achieved almost nothing other than having J.J. Watt.
Right.
I don't want to, I'm not being mean here. I'm not taking some kind of cheap, hot, takey shot. They are what they are. They've been blander than vanilla since they've come into the league.
And what we've witnessed over the past couple of years might be one of the most resurgent moments of this entire franchise. I remember the franchise started in 2002, so it's not like it's not like it's that old,
right? I'm not that young either,
right? But man, they draft CJ Stroud, they bring in D'Amico Ryans, the whole coaching staff, everything, and it's immediately gets turned around. Now all of a sudden they won back-to-back division titles, went to the playoffs. Now they're here in the playoffs again, 12-5 as a wild card.
Yeah, they didn't win this one, obviously. So.
No.
And they did start this season 0-3. I saw somebody earlier saying that we're making these guys out to be the 2000 Ravens or the 86 Bears or 85 Bears, whatever it is.
Bears, yeah.
No. Chris just pointed out that they've gotten hit deep. I like this point here from JM. First off, Sarah says this is going to be our 15-year-old son's first time seeing the Steelers in a playoff game. He's so excited. Sarah, I know a way to get him even more excited. Stop on over here before the game. We'll be here. 224 Fifth Avenue downtown. We'll be here all day leading up to kickoff. JM says that the Houston defense lives in the nickel, something you've talked about this week, Chris. Seems like an opportunity to run the ball and control the clock. Yeah, and that's where Spence comes in. And that's where Connor Hayward as a fullback comes in. And that's where being the big, tough team that just slams at you comes in. And then that's also where, as Ray Tallarico points out here, says, give the ball to 30 and then do it again. That's also where you have to understand, if you're Arthur Smith, if it's working, leave it alone. You don't have to get all cute and clever and go by whatever it was that you decided last Thursday that you wanted to do. You know what I'm talking about when I say that, Chris. They make up their minds about a certain thing, and then they don't take yes for an answer when they get out on the field.
Well, the good thing is that we've seen this rushing offense really take off over the last few weeks. It's been there. I'm pulling the numbers up right now. I mean, over the last few weeks, they have ran the ball for 135 yards, 230 yards, 131 yards, and then 100 yards against the Ravens. I mean, that's ever since they only ran for 34 yards against the Ravens back on December 7th. So 4 straight weeks where they've had at least 100, and then it's including a just ridiculous 230 yards against the Lions. They've been running the ball. And even when they've not been running the ball, they've been still utilizing both Jalen and Gainwell on using them, in the passing game, out in the flat, checkdowns, whatever it is. The way that both of them were used in the win over Baltimore last Sunday night To me, that's like the formula. I think it took them a long time. It took them all season to figure it out. But notice that the majority of the actual carries went to Jalen, and the majority of the throws went to Kenny. But it's not like it was exclusive one way or the other. Jalen still got his own catches because he's, by the way, really good at catching the football and then making something happen. But Kenny has proven that he's just as good at that too. So I think the rotation that you're looking for between the two, I think they found it in that Ravens game. And I think if they were to do something similar, that it could help open things up for this offense against this defense.
Guys, when we come back after this brief message about our app, we're going to be talking about what the betting community is saying through their spending on this particular matchup. We're also going to start looking at this in the reverse, and that is what the Steelers have to do to stop the Houston offense right after this. Oh, that
was a really fast ad break.
Ad break. Oh, we don't have that. We don't have that ad in here. All right. Well, I'll do this thing. I'll do the music part. Are you ready? This program is actually sponsored by our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. We're proud to be partners with them. The line right now that favors the Texans over the Steelers is
still -3, holding strong.
And that's probably where it's going to end up.
Probably.
We're looking at I think an expectation now, really, given the way these playoff games have gone to date and just the parity throughout the league, that everything is going to be really, really, really tight. And I think this one will be too. I can't say that often enough here. I'm not making a prediction one direction or the other, but I don't think you're going to see one of those runaways. You know, I say that, but then the Steelers of late in the playoffs have been blown out quite a bit. So,
listen, I am a fool for thinking that I should have gone to my FanDuel Sportsbook and taken for the Panthers to cover against the Rams on Saturday, and did not. I kept saying I was going to. I said it all week, and then Saturday came and went. I didn't do it, and I could have taken advantage of it because the Panthers absolutely covered that 10-point spread. But you have the opportunity to not make the same mistake that I did.
Yeah, there's been two patterns in play. One is that the games are tight, and the other one is that they're high scoring. So this one I think will be tight. I don't know about high scoring. What's the
over-under is
over-under on this?
38.5.
That's not high.
That's not high.
Playoff game.
It is not.
So if you're interested in any of this, make sure you check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you think the Steelers are going to take care of the Texans in advance, go right ahead and lock in your bets. If you think the other thing is going to happen, you can do that too. Just don't tell anybody. Whatever your game, the FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so that you can join in on all the action. Let's flip this storyline around here, Chris, and look at the Steelers trying to stop CJ Stroud and the Houston offense. First priority that comes to mind.
Maybe, just maybe, blitz a little bit more than you normally do. He's not great against the blitz. That does not mean blitz all game long. But you might have to throw a little bit more at him than you might be comfortable doing, especially, down the stretch. Not that the Steelers have ever been afraid this season of blitzing. That they haven't been, but that might be the first thing. But I think whether it's picking him off, which is not easy to do because he only threw 8 interceptions all season, but I think the defense, more than anything, they've got to find a way to create splash. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown where they put points up by themselves, but it might be a takeaway that automatically puts the offense in field goal range, something along those lines, or puts them right on the doorstep.
Narkill here says that the Texans offense is not that good. I'd rather face an elite defense over an elite offense. I honestly can't wait till this game is over so I no longer have to hear how great the Houston defense is. I mean, maybe the Steelers will win and the Houston defense will still be great. Both things can happen. But with the Houston offense, I don't think of them as great. I don't think anybody on that side would think of it. They're middle of the pack in pretty much every statistic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't even say that in a bad way because the Steelers are just like a hair below middle of the pack in most of these areas. But when I think of CJ Stroud, I don't think of him, generating splash or dominating the field. I think of just efficiency, smarts. Dude is just rocket science smart. Mm-hmm. And then from the running game standpoint, I think of just, managing the clock, getting enough yards.
Yeah, they're fourth in time of possession. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not great at that either. So can you get after them? That's one of the points that comes up here. Can you, in our chat here, can you get after them? Can you get back after Stroud? Take away Stroud's rookie year, Scott Walker says he's been pedestrian at best. I think he's more inconsistent than pedestrian because what he'll do is he'll look really good for a couple games and then really nothing special for another couple.
Well, I think and I'm not trying to say like make excuses for Stroud. That's not what I'm doing here. But if you're finding if you're trying to find a real, like, the Houston offensive line is not I want to say they're not very good, but Pro Football Focus just a few days ago put out their rankings of all the offensive lines to finish up the season, and they ranked Houston 27th. Yeah, Steelers were 8th. Steelers top 10. Like, yeah.
Offensive line, kids.
Offensive line, guys. But Houston's offense, so the thing with Houston's offensive line is they are good at protecting Stroud. They are not good at creating lanes for Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. And that in and of itself, while yes, they keep Stroud clean better than than their 27th ranking would initially have you believe. If you don't have a consistent running game, you're asking your quarterback to be in a lot of one-dimensional situations, which is then going to, when you do face a team that has TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig and Cam Hayward, and with the way Keanu Benton's playing right now and Derek Harmon, you're playing with fire a little bit. Because if the Steelers can force Houston to be in 3rd and long a good amount of the time, I don't think Stroud is just going to be clean all game long. I just don't.
And if the Texans don't establish a run, that allows the Steelers to stick with, here again, paraphrasing Tomlin, what it is that they do best defensively. They then don't have to out-clever themselves. What about receiving weapons, Chris? What are we looking at here from the Houston side, and who should the Steelers be worried about the most?
Well, Nico Collins is the most dangerous one. He is really, kind of been already known, but Matt Williamson, I know him and I talked earlier on the Southside Beat. He thinks he's top 5 in the league. I don't know if he's quite top 5, but he's a really good receiver, and he's a physical issue for a lot of corners. It would be a game in which I would expect Joey Porter Jr. to be on him most than anybody else. He caught 71 passes for over 1,100 yards this year. He's dangerous. He's their most dangerous guy. Dalton Schultz led the team in receptions at tight end. He was second on the team with 777 receiving yards. So he's a nice security blanket for CJ Stroud. And then they have the 2 rookies from Iowa State, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. I really liked Higgins during the draft build up last year. I really liked Jaden Higgins a lot. I thought he would go like mid-second round, and the Texans really liked him and took him 34th overall. So yeah, and Higgins turned into their WR2 right away. So they've got a nice little group of targets there for Stroud to throw to. And they live pretty much out of 11 personnel. That's what they like to do. 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. But, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, they've got some weapons that Stroud can throw to.
Final thoughts on this matchup today. Chad gets us going on that front. I like this. He just says if the Steelers are successful running, they should win. That's a gross oversimplification, as I'm sure Chad knows in the moment that he's making it. But it leads to more logical things that add up. And that is beginning with time of possession, poise, confidence, wearing down a defense that's not used to being worn down, making sure that you're keeping the other guys honest in terms of how they engage in their pass coverage. To throw this one to you, Chris, can the Texans afford – oh, wait, I'm going to ask this two different ways. Can the Texans afford to double cover DK Metcalf, or can they afford to not double cover Metcalf?
I don't think they have to. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're so good is because you can put Derek Stingley Jr. on them, or you can put Kamari Lassiter on them. You don't have to worry about like, hey, we're going to put Stingley and we're going to make sure Bullock is over the top or anything like that. Like, you don't necessarily have to do that with Metcalf. They're just, their coverage guys are so good. Remember the whole Mike Tomlin thing that we were talking about earlier in the season where he's like, we're just going to line up and we're just going to cover these guys. That's what the Texans actually did. Like, the Texans fulfilled Mike Tomlin's coverage people desire. And that's
they didn't get a Darius Slay who was way too old.
They did not. They got a really young Kamari Lassiter. They have Derek Stingley Jr., who's really grown into one of the game's premier corners. So, yeah. And we haven't even talked about Petrie, who is a phenomenal nickel as well. So, yeah.
Man, Chris loves these guys. You people, Chris loves this Houston defense. Listen to the way he speaks of them.
Listen, do you want me to be...
They're 12-5. They lost their first 3 games.
Do you want me to be realistic, or do you want me to
No.
say...
I love the realism. I love the respect for them. I just don't... They finished second in the division to the Jaguars. This is not a scenario that would excite anybody in a vacuum. Okay? And I understand, like, it's not like their offense is some wreck. You know, it's not like it's a moving catastrophe that they would have lost games just because. In other words, they're not Cleveland, you know, where they have the great defense. And no. So are they beatable? Sure, they're beatable.
Of course they are.
Have they actually won 9 in a row in real life? Of course they have. Are they the best defense in the NFL? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, all of the numbers point to them being that, but what has their schedule told you? You know, what kind of challenges have they met schedule-wise? Let's open that up. I'm game for this conversation. I am. You know, I want to see what it is that Houston's done and what makes that defense so great when it comes to strength of schedule.
Let me shut this down really quick, though.
Go ahead.
Is Chris showing Texas bias? Man, I lived in Dallas. There's no bias for me.
That's like
toward
Pittsburgh
Houston.
and Philly, man. Houston
There's
and
no
Dallas.
bias for me toward Houston at all.
So here's their winning streak. You ready?
Yeah.
This is what their defense has done in that winning streak. They beat the Jaguars. Nice W, but they gave up 29 points in doing so. They beat the Titans. Big whoop. They beat the Bills. But the Bills put 19 points up on them. They beat the Colts when the Colts fade began. 20-16. They beat the Chiefs. We all know the Chiefs haven't been the Chiefs. They beat the Cardinals, gave up 20 points. They beat the Raiders and gave up 21 points. That wasn't Kenny Pickett, though, right? That was
no, that was
Geno.
Smith.
Yeah. Still gave up 3 touchdowns to the Raiders. That doesn't excite me. They won at the Chargers. Nice W. Gave up 16 points. That's okay. Then they beat the Colts in the finale. And gave up 30 to a rookie.
Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame.
They gave up here, and here's what Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame did in that game. He went 21 of 34 for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He was sacked once by the almighty edge rushers of the Texans.
Colts also have a phenomenal offensive line.
Yes, they do.
They really do.
And yeah, but they're facing the 2000 Ravens and the 85 Bears. So let's keep it all. No, I'm purposely playing devil's advocate.
Oh,
here.
I know.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that there has to be some measure of.
Oh yeah, again,
Okay.
and that's why I bring up the explosive plays, because it's a legitimate concern, and it's a legitimate concern enough for D'Amico Ryans and their defensive coordinator to bring it up pretty much unsolicitedly when addressing reporters. Like, we have to get this fixed because the Steelers are coming to town. And while they're not known for all these big plays down the field, this isn't the Russell Wilson show where it's just, moonball all game long. They watched that tape of what happened in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
They watched that tape of just DK Metcalf down the sideline and Calvin Austin down the sideline. They know that the Steelers are capable of it. If they're smart, they know that the Steelers are capable of it. And they know Metcalf's coming back. And
I'm going to revisit this Indianapolis-Houston game. This game was in Houston, by the way. So they had all the, home field and everything else, right? Riley Leonard, I mentioned his stats. Rookie quarterback. The rushing is impressive. They held Jonathan Taylor to 26 yards on 14 carries. However, it really didn't matter all that much from the defensive perspective because Alec Pierce had 4 catches for 132 yards, one of them for 66.
He had the 2 explosive plays that I'm talking about.
Yeah. So Josh Downs, secondary receiver, 4 catches for 61 yards. Overall, they spread the ball to a bunch of different targets. Talking about the Colts now against the Texans. This isn't from 2 months ago or whatever. This is last week.
Yep.
Okay. And it's not like the Texans were playing for nothing.
Yeah. Now, Lassiter was out. Lassiter didn't play. And the guy that they picked on was the guy who was playing, was Tremon Smith, who was in for Lassiter, and he's the one who got burned. So having Lassiter back, you would think, helps circumvent that a little bit. But again, just because Lassiter's back doesn't mean that they can't just say, okay, he's back, everything's fine. No, like you have to pay attention to it throughout the week. And that's why I'm wondering, like, if the Texans are going to pay extra attention to that and almost be like, no matter what, we're not letting anything beat us deep. Does that help open things up underneath? Does that create a little bit of extra room for Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell? Because when you look at Jaylen Warren and his metrics in terms of when he is there with open space, he is as good as any running back in the NFL. That's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. He's as good as any running back in the NFL in terms of creating missed tackles and breaking tackles. He is just elite at, okay, I caught the ball, and if I get tackled right away, it's a 3-yard gain, and then turning it into more, whether it be another yard or another 8 yards, whatever it is. Warren is elite at doing this. Gainwell is also very good at it.
Jay says, not an excuse, but the blown coverages were due to the Texans selling out to stop the run, so I don't expect to see coverage breaks that badly. You're saying that the Steelers can't run? You're saying that Jaylen Warren can't run the football? This is kind of what I'm getting at here. This is why we keep coming back to the run.
Mm-hmm.
They want to sell out to stop the run. They can go right ahead and do that.
Absolutely.
But they've shown that they can get picked on in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So just look, there's a difference between, you can have this both ways. You can have a measured discussion that goes in both directions here. I'm not trashing them, and Chris isn't going over the top with them. We're just trying to to lay out what they actually are.
Oh, but if the Steelers go into Monday night and they score a grand total of 9 points and just can't move the ball all night long, you're gonna know why ahead of time, because this defense is absolutely capable of doing that to not just this offense, but almost any offense in the NFL. That's what this defense is capable of. But every single number one defense is capable of giving up big plays and having a lot of points scored on them. Listen, the 2008 Steelers, they won the Super Bowl that year. Did they have their best game in the Super Bowl against the Cardinals? No, they did not. James Harrison had the greatest play in Super Bowl history, but that defense also leaked badly late in the game and gave up a really big explosive play to Larry Fitzgerald later on. And they allowed 23 points in a season where they didn't allow anywhere near that for an average per game that year. Just because they're the number one defense in the 18 weeks that is the NFL regular season does not mean that they're going to go into Monday night and just pick up where they left off. It's a whole new season. And this is an opportunity for Arthur Smith to put together a great game plan and beat that defense.
And if you're losing Darnell Washington is like losing the percussionist. See, I think of Darnell as like the bass.
Yeah.
If I put Darnell in a band,
he's the glue that holds everything together.
I want him on bass, and bass is your heartbeat. Bass is everything. You know? Yeah. See that?
It's the glue that holds everything together.
How sophisticated this program has become. Guys, we're gonna call it an episode here. After the game, we will be back with a post-game freezing up on the rotunda, the way we always do here. And we'll impart all kinds of immediate impressions from the game. Appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys supporting us for quite some time now. And maybe this game will lead to another game, and we'll just keep doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, guys. See you later.